Yeah, and they have it. So
Okay.
I really make a motion to close.
Anything else to be added to that? I think we got all the information.
Yeah,
Give Mrs. Ayers, right?
yeah, it was
Oh.
just the DEP number we were waiting for.
Okay, so I have a motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, that was easy. Thank you.
You'll get your orders next meeting.
Thank you.
That's gonna be a nice project to watch.
Yeah. 20 Newton Street, do we have to
opened it.
open that
We opened it and then continued, I believe.
And we're
Okay.
going to continue it again.
till January 28th?
Yes, I make a motion to continue 20 Newton Street to 6:20 on January 28th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Thanks. 87 Glades Road,
Now we gotta sign it.
okay. So what else can we,
So, we can talk about the, certificates of compliance.
Well, are you gonna open 87 Glades Road, yes, no?
We're too early.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the issue.
Oh, 6:30, I'm sorry.
well, we can do we have any RDAs?
No.
Okay.
No, there's been a small lull on the RDAs.
Good.
Right now.
Oh, I'm so sad.
Certificate?
So, I'm sorry, Amy, what were you,
So, we have two certificates of compliance
Yeah.
on the agenda. One of them was for an older single-family home, that was constructed, and so I'm gonna recommend that we sign off on that one, on Dreamwall. And then we also have, another single-family home on Old Oaken Bucket, 135, Amari.
mhm.
So I'm not sure if you remember that one or not.
Yeah. There was a lot
Right
of
on the
plantings
bog.
between the bog and the house.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so they installed those over the summer.
Mhm.
And one of the conditions, there's a 2-year planting
Right.
observation window. So, but there's a sale that is potentially imminent or something like that, so asking for partial. So just wanted to get your feedback on whether you wanted to hold an escrow for the plantings or just issue the partial as is, or
Hmm.
handle it another way.
Is that the only thing, the mitigation, that's been completed, the plantings, but it's the 2-year thing? Because my concern with any partials from here on out is that the mitigation's already done, because we've had a few that were still trying to chase after mitigation,
Right.
and they already have their CSC.
But a lot of people need, like, if they're building in the winter,
I understand what you're saying, Frank, but it's
so if someone has a project they're trying to close, they need to do something for their mortgage, whatever the case may be, you can't expect them to wait 2 years.
No, I'm not talking about, as long as the plantings are in,
Yeah, but-
then I'm happy
But
with
sometimes you're
partial.
finishing up the project in November or December, the plant material's not available until April.
Yes,
And what we have done, I thought, with cases like that, is people could put up some money to cover the cost of
Yes.
that. And I think if we have one or the other,
no, I'm fine with that. It's just that I think of two right off the top of my head that we can't get the mitigation from them. One's a financial one, and the other one is just to do some work. And it's
The
upsetting.
off-site mitigation, that one?
right,
Yeah.
well, we'll get that.
No, but it's just upsetting, and it's like,
Right, well, in this case.
let's forget about
the
us.
plants are in,
If they're,
so
yeah, that, no,
What about-
that's
what
good.
about just
I'm
a small
fine with
escrow?
that.
Just a-
That's what I had in mind.
Sure.
Yeah, just a small escrow and
Yeah.
give them
So
the,
it's small, 500?
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay,
Yeah.
me too.
And that would cover what is left to be done?
And
Oh,
I don't know if
Sort
it
of a
would,
good-
but it's
more of a
enough
good
for,
faith thing.
yeah, it's
Okay.
more of an incentive to get it done just on,
Well, Amy
Not
said
everybody has $500
everything's
to
in,
blow.
it's just more to make sure that everything survives. And
Yeah,
in 2
yeah.
years, if some stuff hasn't survived, at
Well,
least
you-
we have
you-
$500.
To replant?
Yeah,
Right,
to put
exactly.
back
It
in there.
wouldn't, 500 wouldn't cost, cover the cost of completely, like, if you have 100%
yeah,
mortality on the plants, 500 is not gonna cut it, but I think
it's an
that-
incentive to go back and redo it.
Well, I think that 500 is
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're gonna see 100%.
No.
No,
Right.
unless something drastic happens.
Although, you know, I mean, like if you're doing something with the planning board and you're supposed to pave or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to post a sum of money sufficient to finish the paving or do
Finish the
whatever
job.
work is required. If you don't,
Yeah,
then you don't get signed off.
okay.
So it's not unreasonable to do that. I just find something that's fair.
I'll stick with the 500. Do we need a motion for that?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
okay, great.
Anything under old business or,
We have the orders under old business.
Yep.
Which we could make motions for the orders. We could talk about Candlewood.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that, before you issue, that you're happy with the special conditions that,
Okay, well, 7 Revere Street, I'll make a motion, we accept those as written, now it's the septic.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
I-
Okay.
I
On
personally
Candlewood?
read Candlewood, and I
I thought it
was
was,
very pleased with
yeah, I
what
thought
you
it was
wrote.
good.
I thought it was good. I have it here. Yeah, I thought it was
That you
excellent.
covered everything that we had hoped
we've
for.
talked about, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and what the neighbors talked about.
I kept it short and sweet.
Yeah, but
Dawn-
you
dawn to
hit all the
dusk.
points.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, and direct.
Okay.
Keep it simple. Good.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we accept those orders as written.
Second.
All in favor?
And then there are 2 ORADs.
Okay.
Which stands,
119,
Those don't really have conditions.
They don't have conditions, but they need to be voted on.
Oh, okay, I make a motion that we, what?
Issue the ORAD.
Issued the ORAD on 119 Man Hill and 390 Hadley Road.
You had a question, didn't you?
yeah, it's an
Okay.
ORAD.
Oh, the ORAD is just the
What am I voting
staking
on?
of the land.
Order of resource area delineation, so that's the ANRAD
They
becomes
were
an
here
ORAD.
last week.
So we accepted
2
the
weeks ago.
wetland lines for those 2 properties.
And then you issue an ORAD
Yes.
after the ANRAD.
there you go.
Yeah.
That is so rad.
And then they'll come back when they want to build with a notice,
Gotcha.
okay?
But it's an important thing to be watchful on, because
Yes.
a lot of times we have a hearing and it's all sort of wrapped into one. In this case, they come in early, they
Yeah.
want to know what their limitations are going to be.
Well, and it's good for 3 years usually, or something like that.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Correct, and on the 606 Chief Justice Cushing Highway project, we received today the notice of intent for that,
Not that we,
Track and
anyone's
field
seen that,
project.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, so anyway, you made a motion,
Motion to
except not Man
issue
Hill.
the ORAD for 119 Man Hill and 390 Hadley Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And I'll make a motion to issue the ORAD for 606 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, the track and athletic fields.
Second on that, too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. It looks
Now
like
you
we
can
hit
go.
6:30. 87 Glades Road, on January 7th, 2019, 6:30 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Doris Crary for a septic repair and to raise and rebuild a dwelling on property located at 87 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and interested parties are invited to attend.
And I make a motion to continue 87 Glades Road to January 28th at 6:20.
Was there a reason to continue that, Amy? You just weren't?
87 Blades.
Yeah,
Uh, the engineer requested to continue it.
okay.
That's all.
You know, it's actually, I'm aware that it is, the project is in front of a few other boards, so I think that they wanted to receive comment from the
Oh.
other boards before they finalize and make sure they come through with us.
Makes sense. All right, so a motion to continue?
Yeah.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Great.
It was the January what?
28.
28.
So now we have 157 Turner Road, Elevate. On January 7th, 2019, geez, Paul, you have to wait again. We have to give all these things just a 6:30 start time.
I know.
What else do we have here? Any other,
I have,
Go ahead.
if it was part of it was in the body of an email, or just a real quick question about the appeal that's underway
Right,
Yeah,
from, is that 53 Borders?
Border Street, yes.
153.
So that was what that email is? So I read through that, doesn't look like there's any action from us, but it looks like is this an appeal of a superseding order?
yes.
Yes.
So they're still,
They're still
looks like
going
they're
on.
questioning the delineation of the wetlands itself.
Yeah.
Looked to me like implying that it hadn't been delineated, not that it hadn't been delineated properly, but there was missing information. So,
I think they
What was that
contended that it
referring
wasn't
to?
done properly recently, and it's been that way from the very beginning of the whole thing. They've been here and
do you
let
know-
their case be known from the very beginning.
Okay.
And we
So-
already had an appeal, they appealed, the people, Spellman's appealed with DEP, and we've already had a site visit with DEP, and DEP was with us for what we had done. And then there was another appeal on top of that, right?
Wow.
So it's a higher step that Spellman's going, so we're just waiting.
We're really out of it at this moment, aren't we?
Yeah, we really are.
I guess I was wondering what the missing information was that they
wasn't.
referred to.
We don't believe so.
The data form,
For the wetland delineation for like the soils and vegetation count and stuff like that? That the
Right.
botanist would have submitted?
right. Which they're not mandatory,
They're not?
no.
This guy's.
Okay. Because I remember seeing Brad Holmes on there. He's usually very thorough.
Right,
I-
and on that particular case, we also had a peer review.
Yeah.
So the commission peer reviewed, Lucas also reviewed the wetland line and the other coastal resources, that's coastal bank.
So they're,
And they were in agreement, so,
We worked very hard on it.
okay.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
I was just curious if there was, something fell through the cracks and that was what the basis of the, I mean, I'm sure the appeal is more heartfelt than just,
I think you're right.
administrative error or something like that, but
Right,
I was wondering if that's what they were,
yeah,
they're using the process that's afforded to them.
yep, no, I
They
get
feel
that.
strongly, and they're following the
do.
process, and now it'll be the end of February before they go any further, last day of February, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious, since I didn't know anything about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So,
it was an interest.
That was a perfect time to do it. Now we can go, Frank.
did I kill enough time?
You did good.
All right.
Job.
On January 7th, 2019, at 6:35 PM, in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Daniel McAdam to elevate an existing dwelling on property located at 157 Turner Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering Company, representing the applicant, Daniel McAdam. Mr. McAdam owns the existing single-family dwelling at 157 Turner Road, which is shown in the brown color on my plan. That orange line represents the FEMA zone line that places the house in a velocity zone elevation 19. He's proposing to elevate the house on concrete piers underneath the house, which he would elevate in place and work underneath the house. The top of the piers would be 3.1 feet above the FEMA elevation of 19 or elevation 22.1. The first floor of that house will be about 5.7 feet higher than it is at the present time. There are no changes in the elevation of the land around the house. It's relatively flat. There's a silt sock that would go around three sides of the property. And again, all the work would take place underneath the house. There's a set of structural plans that were prepared by Livermore. It's a very detailed set of plans. He is applying for the FEMA grant. I've been working with him to fill out some of the other documents. And, proceed.
So did we agree, are we in agreement, Amy, on these footings, that they are allowed to use spread footings? They don't have to be individual footings on the pile? Paul, I'm just trying to remember how that discussion went.
I'm not aware of that discussion, but he is using a,
I mean, there's some of the piers have individual footings, and then there's some that have,
continuous footings.
yeah,
Yeah, there's not supposed to be below surface grade beams, if that's the same thing that you're talking about.
There was one down Amarok a while back that we had problems with the type of footings they were putting in.
Right, for work.
Yeah. And he finally did convince us, I do
I
believe.
think we did allow that, right?
Yeah, I
Yes, we
think we
did in
did.
the end.
The
He,
helical piers?
yeah, we kept
I think
coming
that's
back.
on the raise and rebuild that's on the corner of Concord Street.
Yes.
Well, they were gonna use helical piers, and then they bagged that idea,
Yeah,
right?
now they just did driven wooden piles, though.
Oh, did they?
In the end, they
Yeah, in the end,
changed it
they
out.
did, that's right.
Oh,
They
okay.
couldn't source the design.
Oh, was that what it was? All right, but we did have that.
Yeah, because it's up now.
Quite a conversation. on
Yeah,
that.
so, and I realize that in this case, they can't move the house, so they're
No.
doing it underneath the
Yeah.
house. And it's really hard to dig, in some cases, individual footings in that soil. You know, you wind up just with
Sand,
a,
I know it.
with a big hole, but I'm just trying to remember that there's a, Paul, is it, and I'm just curious, is there an existing footing?
I was just saying, he's using an existing footing on sheet S 2.2 on the upper left-hand corner.
Yeah,
There's a note to, the dials to match the vertical bars in the existing footing. That, if that's the house I'm thinking of, that may have been rebuilt after the storm of '78 when they had full foundations.
right.
Yeah.
And they put footings in there with sand floors.
So in this case, he's keeping the concrete foundation, but saw cutting parts of the
Saw cutting.
foundation away.
You're right, the foundation walls go. Looks like he's keeping the footings. Yeah, there's another.
Well, he's only saw cutting the foundation walls down to the finished grade. I don't know.
On top of sheet S 2.1 says demo existing
Yeah, he's,
end walls.
Want me to switch places with these? Because I
No,
will.
it's okay. It's
What
like, the
section?
question is whether or not it's allowed, right?
GS 2.2.
So he's keeping the pre-existing footings, though, that's what you're saying.
There's pre-existing footings, and then they're saw cutting and removing sections of the concrete wall, and especially at the end, you know, like facing the ocean, so that the water could theoretically flow through. But they're leaving the foundation walls
on the back.
on the side ones, and the center one, they're just cutting them down to the
Finished grade.
finished grade.
So they're leaving the
The water could
foundation.
still
So
go
water,
through.
water
side.
will
Water
go
could still go
through.
through.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not the same as having a,
No. Complete flow from every direction. We're getting into Webster Street.
and we allowed, and to some degree, that was allowed, like, I remember the house across from, the Marina, Marine Park on Edward Foster Road.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, in that case, that foundation, they allowed that foundation to stay, and they elevated the house.
They elevated the whole house,
Is
yeah.
that velocity zone?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, it's behind a seawall. This is,
Probably not then.
and the velocity zone ran in there somewhere, Amy, but I can't remember
Okay.
exactly where.
You know, some of the foundations in the past were shear walls, and that's like a half a shear wall going from the street toward the seawall in that
Mhm.
direction. And what you're gonna do is to keep the wall, except for the piers, and cut it down to grade. Basically braces those piers, even though they're gonna be dialed into the footing.
And what's the zone?
Pardon?
Velocity.
Yeah.
And then a section of the wall that runs parallel to the seawall would be cut out entirely.
I can see it's like Webster Street.
I mean, what they're doing seems sensible, I'm just not sure what's allowed.
I'm not either.
Well, maybe we should reach out to CZM and ask them
Yeah.
their opinion as to whether, in this case, it would meet the requirements, because they're pre-existing.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's an exemption because of that, but otherwise strictly it appears that it might not.
Either that, or you make a phone call to Peter. I'm sure Peter would know why he did that. Peter Falk?
Oh, yeah.
I think we have to look into it.
Yeah, I can do that, yeah.
I mean, what he's doing makes sense to do it that way from a structural point of view.
Well, and working on it, I realize, I mean, it's just a difficult site, and so you're trying to work around all the parameters that are there. I'm just,
Pull it over. I didn't.
the structural engineer's saying it meets all those design requirements.
Well, let's just check. I'd feel better, I mean, personally.
I guess it'd be two things, it's modifying the foundation that's there,
Yeah.
and then number two, on the front and on the back of the house, there's continuous footings that would support the decks.
Yeah, the ones on the decks is a strip footing.
Right.
Well, I can reach out and find out if we can allow this or not.
Is there anything else? What's the erosion control stuff, Paul? Is there any go?
Silk top?
Okay. Is that even gonna be doable?
Yeah, what they'd have to do is to remove it in the front.
Okay.
Bring equipment in or something during the day,
Yep,
put it back, and the one on the side would stay there.
okay.
I don't think there'll be very much erosion in there.
No. I mean, I just wonder how effective the silt sock's even gonna be there, if it's better off with just
We put it there because it's required.
just some kind of fencing or something to, well, I mean, if anything runs out on Turner Road, would be concerned, but,
Doesn't see much.
yeah. I guess I wouldn't be as worried about that. I just want to make sure the foundation's
Yeah, no, I'm glad you looked at that, Frank.
the correct.
I know he's been working with Kyle at the town hall here.
Yeah,
And they've called me in the last 2 weeks to get their documents in final order. And they did have questions about elevations and the procedure for doing some of the work, which we squared away with them.
can we do this? I mean, I see most of this is in pretty good shape, but I know we're reluctant to have orders ready. But I think everything's in pretty good shape, but I would want to confirm that. I mean, I hate to delay, I don't know how quickly they're trying to move.
He was hoping to have the hearing the last time because he had a date of, I had to write a letter to the town saying that these projects are normally approved. FEMA and MEMA was asking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's trying to get in this latest round of funding, which he is in,
Yeah,
Right,
but they need the order conditions,
right.
and they're expecting to get them, the end of the month.
So how do you feel about if this can be resolved, is there any way we could close and give orders at that next meeting? If all of this is in order?
Yeah, well, you could vote to close an issue,
yeah.
and then if they're not ready at the meeting, they'll be
Not, maybe
ready.
not the meeting, but within a
Right,
couple of
shortly
days, so
thereafter,
that
yeah.
there's not a big delay.
Yeah,
So what's your issue, using the spread footing,
Well, there's two things, Paul. It's keeping the
foundation?
keeping the foundation and the way they've modified it. And then the spread footings for the deck. And you know we're in favor of anything to get the houses up and elevated
Yes.
and all that. We just want to make sure that the foundation's in compliance.
What I could do in the meantime is, talk to Peter Falk, and if that's allowable, have him write a letter explaining why.
Something like that would be great.
We could back it up with the code or something.
I thought we were gonna reach out to see
Yeah, we'll do that.
yeah, I
make
can
sure the
also
state's all right with this.
reach out, right.
Yeah,
But
that's
so-
all.
If we don't, if we leave it open, if we just continue it,
Yeah,
if there's
yeah.
any new information, we can consider
Yeah.
it.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good to me, all right.
So I take a motion to continue?
Motion to continue, 157 Turner Road to 620 on January 28th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Would you have orders that night if everything's in
Hopefully.
order?
Well, what we,
we're gonna try.
Okay.
is that we'll close and issue the order, and if they're not totally written, or something has to be plugged in, they'll have it within a couple of days or something like
It
that.
won't be 2 weeks.
I'll let the applicant know that, and Kyle, so he can plan,
Yep,
accordingly. Okay.
okay. I know that there's a whole matrix on these foundations, where they are, with the elevation and all that stuff, Paul, but I don't know what.
I've spoken to Peter in the past about some of these regulations,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's like this.
Yeah,
You know, you talk to one person, you get one answer, you talk to someone else, you get a different answer.
it's true.
That's so true.
Well, let's hope we get the right answer.
We will.
All right. 33 Oceanside, raise and move dwelling. What are we doing, one or the other?
Well, it's already been raised. It's gone.
On January 7th, 2019, at 6:40 PM, the Town Hall, the Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws, and Section 32050 Town of Situate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of Alfred Boyajian to elevate an existing dwelling and construct new foundation on property located at 33 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. The applicant is proposing moving a new dwelling at 43 Oceanside Drive to a new foundation at 33 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Maravito from Ross Engineering Company, representing the applicant.
Yeah.
The applicant has recently purchased the property at 33 Oceanside Drive. The application is for permission to raise the existing dwelling and replace it with a proposed dwelling shown on the plan in reddish color. There'd be a covered porch attached to it as well. this is the dwelling, and he's gonna add a two-car garage to it as well. Plan is to pick the site up to elevation 16, which is a foot above the FEMA flood elevation of 15. This is land subject to coastal storm flowage. And you'll have a landscape wall in this area here, which is approximately 2 feet high. And you'll have one in here as well with a swell that would, any water coming off of this property would flow in this direction and flow back out to the street. This is a proposed paved driveway. This is a driveway to the lower level of the house, which would be gravel. It'd only be used for storage purposes. The rest of the area would be all lawn. This is the silt fence, or I mean the silt sock we're proposing around the perimeter of the work limit. Although it's not required, we did put infiltrators in for the roof runoff. This project does not trigger the Scituate stormwater bylaw regulations for 3 reasons. One, the lot is less than 15,000 square feet. If you have 15,000 square feet of disturbance, that's one threshold you would trigger. The other is if you have an increase of 25% of impervious area, you would have to have a stormwater permit issued. We have a 10.3% increase in the impervious area, and the third threshold that you trigger is if you offer more than 1,000 square feet of land on a slope of 25% or greater. This is a relatively flat site. It's about a 3% slope across it. All the existing utilities from Oceanside Drive would be used to service the new house. And the proposed grading on the site, again, this wall is gonna pick the grade up around the house. And what we'll do from here is to slope this back to the street at about a 3 to 4% slope.
And you're saying the house is already demolished?
Yeah, it's gone. I was down there today, there's no house.
I found that out the day before yesterday.
Just open land, that's
Is the
all.
garage gone too?
Everything's gone, there's nothing on the property.
Is there any erosion control up or
No.
anything?
No,
No.
no, it's just,
I-
they just
I
wiped
called the
it out.
applicant and asked him why he took it down before the meeting. He said the contractor had gotten a permit from the building department, and they took it down. He wanted to get it down before January 1st because of taxes, the real estate taxes, which I don't understand that, but in any event, I found out the day before yesterday it was down.
You know, there's rules and then there's rules.
So they had a permit to demolish it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember signing off on that.
They-
But when actually I had an abutter come in and tell me about it, and I was like, huh. But it's, I don't know, my opinion on it was that if they weren't digging into the ground, that I wasn't particularly concerned about it, but it was certainly part of your application.
I know it was.
To raise and rebuild, yeah.
All I can think of is that was a permit to demolish the house. I mean, it wasn't a building permit. That's a separate permit.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
generally though, there's sign-offs by interdepartmental sign-offs on every permit, so I actually sign off on every permit.
I wasn't
but-
part of that because the contractors usually apply for that, or the owner.
Yeah.
But this is hearsay, you haven't seen it in your hand, have you?
What, the permit?
The permit?
I-
Have you seen
I
the
did-
permit?
I
Or
did,
You're just being told there was a permit?
I called the building department
Oh,
to
did you?
verify it. I sure did,
Okay,
and they did issue it.
okay. I don't know. I was
To let
just
us
shocked
know.
when I went down there. I'm there, ooh, dear.
Makes 2 of us.
Right, because before they let you demo a building, they make sure that the materials test out of, asbestos
Yeah,
and
I
lead,
know. It's
whatever
just-
they
Yeah.
have.
Well, they have to
that.
disconnect all the
It was
utilities.
there, and
Utilities, yeah.
it's not there. So, but,
I mean, if they don't have certificates from the power company, the gas company, all that, the water, they don't give them a permit to demo, so.
but
So I'm assuming Bob got all of those,
I'm assuming that too, yep.
the bottom line, the house is gone. Now, I do have some questions. Can I ask my questions, Frank?
Mhm.
Frank?
Paul says, yeah.
Okay. Is it gonna be a full foundation?
Yes.
Will there be any breakaway panels on it?
No, because the floor will be above the FEMA flood elevation. FEMA flood elevation is
Okay.
15.
Is this gonna be another incident where there's tons of fill gonna be brought in to go up against the whole foundation? I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, avert
Yes.
a little problem.
The fill he's gonna bring in,
Okay,
what he's gonna do is to build this landscape wall.
yeah,
The elevation of land here is 12, the top of the wall is 15 and a half.
It's 3 feet.
And it'll be about,
Just like-
about 3 foot.
If you can't see this and you want to see it, feel free to come up.
I don't have a copy. Yeah, come, please come up, yeah. Come right around.
Is a wall allowed?
No, it's
yeah,
gonna-
it's gonna put a roll.
I mean, a lot of people are interested in doing this because it gets them out of the flood elevation. That's the,
Insurance rates are very high if they aren't.
and we allowed a small wall on 10th Ave, I think it was O'Brien,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago or a year ago.
But what's a small wall? Is it 3 feet?
Well, it was a retaining wall on the side of it. It wasn't quite like
It
this.
wasn't like this.
Yeah.
This will be like a stone wall, it'll be a landscape wall. For example, the ground here will be 13, top of the wall will be about 2 feet high, which is about knee high. And here, and over by the driveway, the wall will be about 1 foot high. And then it's gonna come into the garage area here and be flush. And over here, he's got the wall to contain the fill, but also, the land over here is sloping in this direction. What the water will do is to come down here, there'll be a swell in here and carry it out to the street. And then this wall here will keep the grade of the house in the garage up above the flood elevation of FEMA. And likewise, this wall comes around here and comes back to here. And what he'll do from the back of the house here is simply grade. This is elevation 16, and this is a foot lower over here at 15. So this will be a fairly flat slope from the back of the house to the property line. Likewise, from the street, I mean, from the wall out to the street. It'll be about a 3 or 4% slope. And this will be all lawn area and landscaping. And this is the driveway that he'll build to come into the new garage. And again, the reason for that is to pick everything up out of the FEMA flood zone, which is elevation 15. The basement floor is at 16.1, which is a foot above it.
Wouldn't it be nice if everyone just put their houses on pilings down there and left the land alone? That's my feeling.
Yeah,
I
it would.
understand they can do, you know, get
I-
above, but it would
I've
be
been
so
told
nice.
There's talk at certain levels at the state that if you're in an AE zone, that the
Yeah.
house would have to be on piles.
Yeah,
This
just,
is an AE zone.
there's
But
talk at the state, it isn't.
It's
yet
not
law.
required.
It's just talk.
It would require-
You know, it's just, I find this very unfortunate bringing all this fill in and stuff. You're on the ocean. That's what you're there for, and,
I mean, in this zone, there are no performance standards, and the reason for that is because any flooding you get is from the ocean. Normally, when you do stormwater calculations, if you're inland, you can determine how much rain is gonna fall on the land and where it's gonna go and what, you know, what it's gonna fill up or flood. But when you're dealing with land subject to floodwaters coming in from the ocean, you really can't predict it.
Well, that's the
Stormwater.
problem. So I'm Damien Grosier, and I live directly across the street, and that wall's gonna push ocean into my yard.
That's what I'd be concerned about.
When you say-
Right now, I mean, I can show you videos of the flow of the water currently, the way it comes through the front yard of that property, through my yard to the backyard. But adding 3 feet of resistance is gonna push the ocean in all storms. And I guess maybe I'm incorrect, but I didn't think you could bring fill into a floodplain. And the other thing, I just heard something that was interesting. If I bring fill in the front of my house, I can take it out of a floodplain? I can claim it out of I have an elevation certificate and everything like that. Paul did an elevation for me and told me that I couldn't get out of the flood. And then I went to someone else and I got another flood policy. So, this wall is a major issue. But I'd like to go back to the raising of the house, because I thought there was conditions that you couldn't dig. There were 2 truckloads of fill that have been brought in and leveled out on that lot. So I'm not sure that
Really?
anyone is aware.
No.
And the house was on pylons, and they're all gone. It was.
It was?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't-
They were concrete breakaway, and that's all gone. So that means they had to dig. They can't get that out of the ground without digging, so we dug. And we brought in at least, I got pictures of at least 2 truckloads of fill that came in, that filled and leveled the yard and made it all look nice. They came in, they had 6 dumpsters that came in around the house, and the house basically came down and disappeared. I don't,
Well, it
I don't
came down
believe-
very quick.
Yeah, it came down one day.
Yeah, I know, I was shocked when I went there today. So, what
And
happened?
that night. So, and the other thing is that if I can just kind of, and I think that when we had an issue on another one of his properties, I made mention, this wall, prior to him buying this house, this wall didn't exist. And I think I mentioned to everybody that I should have come back and said something, because he brought in at least 10 dump loads of fill to fill this, when he took down the garage that was here. And I had pictures to show, and of course I'd have to find better pictures, where this wall of stones, similar to the ones that are on Oceanside that still haven't been removed,
Yeah.
were brought in, they were stacked here, and this raised this to that quote-unquote 15 height. This was never a 15 height.
I still don't think it is.
So this stone wall that he's showing here, he brought this stone wall in. He didn't ask anybody, he just did it. He raised the fill, he leveled out this backyard. So this should be like 12, and if he's gonna be 16, that's a 4-foot rundown. Okay? This was all stuff he brought in, and I can't do anything about it now, and that's why I came when the Wampatuck issue was so big. But this wall right here is gonna push all the ocean comes this way. And then it flows this way back to Wampatuck, comes across this way and this way. So this fill is gonna push it all up Kenneth Road into our house.
And you, excuse me, and your house is on the other side of Kenneth Road or the other side of
I
Oceanside?
am right there.
Okay, thanks.
So there's, this side of Oceanside, there's nothing.
There's nothing. It's
Okay.
So
beach.
the ocean comes over the seawall,
Yeah.
and then it runs this way down Oceanside. So as long as there's flow underneath the house, which is what there was now, the water would flow underneath this house,
Yeah.
by my house,
Yep.
over towards the Wampatuck houses, and then flow all the way out to the field on Turner. But now what you're doing is you're gonna create a backup, and it's gonna push everything and just keep it right here. So, and Nancy, the McDonald's, it's gonna push everything back this way. Right now, their flow doesn't affect their house. It flows through their front yard, but with this wall, it's gonna push all the seawall and any storm back into their house.
We don't get any water at all.
You just need to say your name and address,
Sorry,
please.
I'm Nancy McDonald. I live right on 37 Oceanside on the other side, and we have a similar concern. I'm not gonna pretend to understand any of this, but my husband couldn't be here, and he's concerned about the wall on our side as well. When that house was up, they got a lot of water into their driveway, and we don't get water in our basement at all, so we're concerned about what he's doing on that side also, with that wall.
I kind of think we have 3 different concerns here that I've heard. Number one, not appropriate permission to do what he did, assuming your information is correct, and I do, for the moment. Number two, we've got a major issue of fill being brought in, and number 3, the walls, and I was immediately concerned because walls deflect water, whether it's 1 foot or 10 feet, it's going to deflect the water, and that's something we have a real problem with anywhere in the town.
Paul, what's the wall on the north side?
The purpose of that wall, the purpose of this wall is to contain the fill on this side of the house. The existing elevation right here is 12. This is 12, it comes like this, and then it goes to 13, and then it goes up a little bit onto the McDonald property. So the water would be coming this way. And what this wall would do is to contain the fill on this side of it, but when the water comes on to the locus here, it would follow along the wall and go out to the street and into the storm drain system. There's no water being shed onto the abutting property because you can't do it. But again, the purpose of this, where it would be a vacant lot once the house is down, is to raise the elevation of the site. So when he puts the house on it, the lowest floor elevation would be a foot above the FEMA flood elevation. the flood insurance states that in essence, if your floor is at or above the FEMA flood elevation around it, then it's not considered to be a lower level, which in most cases would be a basement area. And once you have the basement area in the house, that's one of the reasons why your flood insurance rates go through the roof. But by having a lower level, at or above the grade around the house, the insurance rate should be very low compared to what you normally see.
I certainly understand that, Paul, but that doesn't speak to the neighbors.
Pardon?
I certainly understand what he's trying to do, but that doesn't speak to how it might affect other
Well,
people.
can I just make mention, because
Well, let's have, typically, what I'd really like to do is kind of get back, excuse me, is sort of get back on track. We usually try to run through the commission members, let Paul answer the questions, and then you have your concerns, and we'll try to answer those, all right? So let's just try to run through a process. So Penny, what,
I already stated I would like to see the house on pilings. I don't like a cellar there, you know, and I'm not crazy about the wall either. And I'm afraid it's gonna push the water onto neighbors' property and
I mean, when FEMA puts that flood zone in a AE zone, what it's saying is that the water's gonna come in. It isn't gonna see any wave action, but when the flood waters come in, it'll eventually rise up to elevation 15.
right.
And the property in all these streets is well below elevation 15, so
that fall.
they'd be inundated with anywhere from, I don't know, 2 to 5 feet of water in this particular area of the town.
If there is a foundation, of course, I'd like to see breakaway panels, but he doesn't want water in his cellar, but I don't know.
He doesn't need the breakaway panels in this case because he's
I-
above the flood
well,
zone.
Yeah. No, I hear where you're coming from, I just,
I mean, what he's doing here is similar to what everyone else is doing, like the previous project where they're elevating the houses to
Yeah.
get up
Well,
above the FEMA flood zones.
that's why I wish.
But it's one thing to elevate the house, but it's another thing to fill around the house.
Yeah, fill and foundation.
But the whole basis for that is to comply with the FEMA elevations,
Yeah.
so the structure isn't subject to the high premiums.
Doug?
Your
Yeah.
turn.
Well, I mean, we have a simpler project like this that's under appeal now. This is the same situation, and I read a little bit about it, and I'm just wondering if you have any idea, there's draft regulations for land coast.
Land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Thanks, yeah. I don't know where those are, or what the idea of that is. What I'm trying to imagine is everybody does this, you know, what happens to the water? I'm not, and I just, look, in a major flood elevation, if the water runs up above the seawall and hits elevation 15, I think everybody knows they're gonna be flooded out. There's a lot that happens between no flood and 15. And I think that's probably the concern of the abutters. And the McDonald's, that wall, I mean, there's a swale, there's not really a swale drawn in, but it does drop a foot from one end to the other. Whether that's going to be enough to keep ponding right in front of that wall, I'm not sure. Is it grass now?
You mean right next to it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, this is tough because I know that there's lacking the kind of regulations that we need to be able to dictate what can be done. I agree with Penny that I'd rather just see people go up on piles. And I know that might not address the cost, but if your utilities are up above the flood zone, I don't know why your insurance premiums would be that much higher than in a situation like this. So, and don't they have to be below the elevation 15? I mean, above elevation 15?
What's that? What is-
Utilities in the house.
the first floor of that house is.
Yeah, it's up several feet already, or it was.
Well, this is brand-new construction at this point, so it's,
25, which is.
well, no, it will be, right?
See, this is what the old house was, so it was up.
But it was on piles.
Yes.
Right, so I guess I don't would have to look at the insurance rate, so it's hard for me to understand why this would be a cheaper build-out than if they were up on piles. And if they're up on piles, the water's gonna get, if this was in Humrock or something like that, it'd be no question, you're not gonna put in a foundation.
Because it's on a Barrier Beach.
Because it's on a Berry Beach, but I guess in my mind, that the principle of letting the water ebb and flow through there should be similar, and I just don't know if we have any idea where DEP is gonna go with this.
No, I think it's still in committee, so, I mean, I haven't seen draft. Usually they come out with draft
Yeah,
policies and regs for comment there, and it's not in the comment stage yet, but there's a committee, so.
it just seemed, I wish we had some direction on that.
Yeah.
It seems to me that it's not a good idea to do these things. We're gonna end up with the same thing, and then we're gonna have, the abutters are gonna get water, they're not gonna be happy. They're more than, they could appeal it if we approve it. Paul's client could appeal it if we deny it, and it just, I wish we had clearer direction on that. But I would just much rather see it up on piles, and we'd be done.
Yeah.
We'd
so
have
easy.
closed the hearing by now, because that's what everyone else is doing. It seems like it's a bad situation, everyone knows it's flood, it's only gonna get worse. There's nothing we can do to fix it other than building a 10-foot seawall. So leaving well enough alone seems like the better choice to me. So that's the end of my.
Me too.
I've already said my thing, except I totally agree that if you raise it, it's fine, but we've had several cases where we've really questioned and not permitted, in some cases, fill or greatly limited it, and we've certainly had many cases where we've not allowed walls. I just think that's maybe solving his problem, but it's just creating unfair problems for other people.
Jen?
Yes. I don't know that I need to restate everything that's already been said, except to perhaps add, what kind of considerations do we have? Maybe this is more a question for you, Amy, for applicants where we know that there's prior issues with, staying within the lines on projects like this?
You mean doing it the right way?
Yeah, he's demonstrated that he doesn't follow some rules, and he's already not followed rules, and
On
so,
the previous project, yeah.
and
On
on
this
this
one.
one.
In
I don't
this
know,
one.
this one.
So what do we do? What can we put in some conditions on that?
I don't know, Jen, we'll have to give it some thought.
Yeah, I mean,
as
don't
to-
answer now, I just more of like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in this case, the resource area is flood zone, land subject to coastal storm flowage. And as Paul stated, that there are no current performance standards, but you, do need to consider impacts to
The neighbors.
the neighbors, so I think that everything that you've said is reasonable. I mean, Paul, would the applicant entertain, putting this on piers of some sort to allow the water to go through?
I don't believe so, because you wanted to use that lower level as a basement area, for storage or whatever, but, the other way to look at it, if there was no fill brought in for that site, you could build that foundation wall, and that'd be perfectly fine, and the first floor would, the floors would still be up at 16. He'd have to have a series of stairs and ramps to get up to the lower level, and even bigger stairs to get up to the upper level.
If it's on pilings, it's gonna still have stairs.
Pardon?
If it's on pilings, it'll still have stairs to get up there.
You need stairs either way.
So what you're talking about is the flooding, the perceived flooding around the house?
Yeah.
Because of the fill? What I'm saying is if you didn't bring the fill in, because he's in the AE zone?
Right.
He's entitled like anyone else to build a full foundation, and you have that lower level, which would be above the flood elevation. So if the fill was in there, you'd still have that structure there.
Wouldn't he have to have breakaway panels if he put a foundation in?
Yeah.
We used to. Always.
No, because the reason is, the elevation of the ground is about average of, say, 12. If the lowest level is up at 16, then you'd have fill from 16 down, within the house. You'd bring in
I
fill.
I absolutely understand, and I'm not the engineer on this panel, but from my understanding is the water was allowed until that house was taken down to flow through. And if that's the case, I don't believe he could construct something else that therefore the water can't flow through.
Well, when they built that house, Richard, there probably were no standards for what you did in the flood zone, because the flood zones didn't
Yeah.
exist back then. But today, depending on the flood zone you're building in, there are very specific construction standards. You know what I'm saying? In this zone here, he's allowed to have a full foundation. You would need breakaway panels, which would have to be within a foot of the surface. But the breakaway panels are to allow the floodwaters to go in and out of that
Yes.
foundation.
Yes.
But he doesn't.
But if the elevation of your lowest floor is 1 foot higher than the floodwater, then there's no need for a breakaway.
So what he's saying is to put a foundation that fill inside with fill.
Yeah.
And then pour that basement floor a foot higher than the,
Than the flood zone, and
Right.
then you don't need a.
Um, but there still would be no more fill around it. The only displacement of water is just gonna be the
Just a-
foundation
Exactly,
area itself.
which should be probably unsightly.
Well, you cover it with
I mean-
lattice or,
I mean, as time goes on and people sell and they resell their homes, the people buying the homes, if they don't retrofit them or do something to get them out of the flood zone, the insurance premiums are gonna be very high.
well, or they build them on piles or some other means to keep
Yeah.
them out of that. So there is other ways, there are alternatives.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one alternative for doing work in a AE zone.
But the filling of that lot, Paul, and the construction of these walls is diverting flow around that property. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's in an AE zone, so in terms of compensatory storage and all that sort of stuff, it's in compliance. That this is a fairly small area. The amount of fill that they put in here, when this whole basin is flooded with water, the amount of fill that they add to this area is immeasurable. It won't really change the elevation of water based on this area just flooding up and down. But we know that two things happen there. Not only does that area flood, but when the water's washing over, it's running through. And so when you build walls, now you're gonna divert that water onto somebody else's property. And that's, when we're in V zones, we have easy jurisdiction on that. When we're down on the Surfside or whatever, people just can't build a wall because they can't push that water onto a neighbor. But we're in an AE zone, and this is under, I mean, that answer's gonna get answered with the appeal of the other, your client's other project.
Well, the other option would be to put that on piles and build the slab on top of the piers.
Whatever.
And when they raise the flood elevation 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, you're back in the same situation.
It's already happened, Paul. I mean, we elevated some houses, and got them out of the flood zone, and now with the change in the flood,
Back in it.
they're back in it, which is a shame.
I've seen that.
You know, people spend a lot of money and time to do it, and now they're back in the flood zone again.
Mother Nature keeps changing.
No, not to be redundant,
Yeah.
I couldn't support it the way it is. I just can't.
When we put this plan together, we clearly followed the current rules and regulations. And I think you know that, you understand that, but,
Okay, well, I think we need to think more about this. Anybody else want to make additional?
Can I just
Yeah.
say one more thing? I think it's a really good point that what was there before allowed water to flow through.
Yeah,
And I think that might give you some, leg to stand on as far as either conditioning or other decision-makings with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, other
Thank you.
boards, like zoning and things like that, allow you to rebuild and not make the condition any worse. So if
Right.
you're too close to a side yard, it's okay, but you just can't go any closer. And viewing it from that lens is we can rebuild this, just don't make it worse than it was before.
the conditions and,
And so that condition, in this case, was already, as opposed to the other one, had a full foundation already.
Yeah, but, I mean, they
This-
still added more walls and
Yeah,
fill.
yes, and
Yeah.
it's under appeal, and we'll get some direction on that in this one, in this case.
Well, this could be under appeal too.
I'm not,
So be it if it is.
I'm not expecting it not to be, but.
So, do you, any other comments you'd like to
Yeah,
make?
just, I'm Damian Grozier, live 72 Kenneth Road. A couple of questions. The land that's directly across the street that's owned by the town, what's
Yes.
that classified as? 'Cause it's
What zone?
It's unbuildable. It's unbuildable. Barrier Beach is one thing, but that's unbuildable land directly across the street from this property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I mean, it may
It
or may
could
not
be
be.
velocity, I'm not sure.
Why is that unbuildable, basically? How is that owned by the town? Like, how does the town own that property? Or is it federal that owns that property?
no,
I don't know.
Federal.
I believe
It's
the
Sand
town
Hills,
owns
because
it.
it's
Yeah.
directly across the street from this property, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Well, it's town property. I don't know how the town acquired it, but it's theirs, so.
Well, there were houses at one point, and the houses are no longer on that property, so they
Okay.
acquired it at some point.
Really?
My mother grew up in this town, so she tells me, oh, yeah, so she used to come down here. I have flood insurance.
It's there.
I have an elevation certificate at 15.
Mhm.
It says nothing about bringing fill in my yard to reduce my flood insurance. If the first floor and all your utilities are at 16 feet, you're out of a flood. I don't understand how that then allows you to dump dirt.
It doesn't allow it. It doesn't allow it. Some people are trying to avoid the insurance premium.
How does the insurance premium change though? That's what I don't understand. My insurance
Yeah, I don't
says that.
either.
I don't know if it will or it won't, and I don't, it's really irrelevant to us.
So the other comment that was made is that, if you're at elevation 12, and if it goes up an inch or down an inch, but my question is, if it goes up an inch at a standard 12 across 100 yards, what's the difference if I put a wall and I raise it an inch? It's gonna push everything higher. It's not gonna go up 1 inch, because what would disperse 1 inch over a big area, when you put up a wall, it goes up 3 inches in that one area. So 1 inch increase in elevation, when you put up a wall, pushes the water next door to 2 or 3 inches.
Mhm.
So, we said that it was at 12. It was at 12, it's now gone up. There was fill brought in, so we know it's already starting to go up. I got pictures of the pile
We did that.
of stuff that was brought in, and the fill was there. And,
Do you, excuse me, do you have extra of those pictures? You
yeah,
could-
she's got them here for you.
That'd be great.
I think
Yeah.
just to have them on record.
She's
would
got
be-
pictures of the house prior, she's got pictures of the building next door, where the garage was taken down and that wall was built up. She's got pictures of that for you, so you can see how we added fill there as well. And I think you said something about utilities. Utilities are already run underground to 79 Kenneth Road, in a floodplain. So it's in a floodplain, they dropped them down, they ran them underground. I don't know if the permits were pulled for that or whatnot, so. I'm sure that the idea is to run underground as well to this house, in some way, shape, or form, but that's all I want to say.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I just
And
have one thing.
your name?
I'm Amy Roger at 72 Kenneth Road. I think you made a really valid point, Doug, that when the big water comes in, it just comes in, and then, you really can't plan for that. It's the area between the, basic rainfall and the 15 feet that we have to sort of legislate.
Yep.
Yeah.
The framing of
Yeah.
the bill and the knowledge that we know he's gonna overstep.
Sure. Anybody else?
Really?
Well, I don't have a lot to say. Nancy McDonald, I live next door. My only thing is, it just is common sense that you should not be allowed to move your water into somebody else's house. I think that's gotta be such a huge consideration
Mhm.
here. It's just,
It is.
you know, it's just really kind of disturbing that this is sort of the routine here with this,
Well, let's hope it's not.
yeah, it's upsetting.
Amy, there's a couple of things. I don't think we want to close this.
No.
We can continue it to get some direction and clarification. How much time do we think we need to get that? I mean, do we want to move it to just the next meeting, or?
Yeah, that sounds good, Frank.
All right. So, but the other part is, this house already being torn down, earthwork, filling. Should we be given an enforcement order?
Stop. Again.
I mean, this person knows the drill. They've been through this before. They know that they're not supposed to be doing earthwork in this area. They already know that it's in a resource area, and that they're gonna go ahead and do this.
Right.
So I think that they should get an enforcement order with a cease and desist, and possibly removing the material that they've already put there. There's no reason to have that. He doesn't have permission to do anything like that until we close this hearing and issue a set of orders.
Correct. We could associate a fine with it too, Frank.
I
I
think
would
it's
love to.
time,
Yep.
you know? I mean, this person just clearly has no regard for this process.
Absolutely.
Or his neighbors.
So I think it's time to invoke as much control on that, or whatever is possible.
Do we have to vote on an enforcement order?
No, I think you can just give me direction. I'll put the paperwork together.
Got it?
Yeah, and it will we can ratify it at the next meeting.
Yep.
So if we have to ratify it at the next meeting, what happens between now and?
That's 2 weeks of him
Well, I
running
will,
crazy.
I can sign on
Yeah,
your
she can do
behalf.
that.
So I'm agent 4, so I'll sign it.
Okay.
Or we
so-
can have Frank sign it, whatever, so it's in effect
Yeah.
immediately
Okay.
for the cease and desist. And then as far as a continuance goes, I mean, are we requesting more information? Or
That was my
We wanna look
question.
into what we have as far as direction from regulatory
Mhm.
agencies
Yeah, I think,
as to whether we can permit this, or if we've got some pre-existing, conditions what they tore down, but we can now make them at least keep status quo, I guess you could say,
right,
for the new structures.
yep.
But we're not really asking him or the engineer for any new additional information at this point, right? Or are we?
Is it maybe?
Well, he's welcome, Paul's welcome to come back with whatever he wants to. I mean, he's heard the discussion and the argument, and he can certainly dig
Those
up
are
whatever he
direction.
wants to.
I know, Paul, you said that you didn't think the engineer would go along with not having the fill and not having the walls,
The applicant,
but I'd like to, the applicant, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'd like to see them asked. If they say no, they say no.
Well,
but-
I will ask him.
Okay.
yeah.
I wouldn't give you a definite answer.
No,
until
I-
speak to him.
No,
I kind of knew
Right.
that, but I just want to make sure.
we should at least
I
throw it out there and see.
made a note to ask him.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right, and then
Lucky.
based on whatever feedback we get, I mean, it'll be the same as all the other cases. I mean, you can either approve with conditions, you can give him conditions that are not exactly the project that they're proposing. You know what I
Right.
mean, just to approve something, or you could straight up deny it, and then all of those are, appealable
Sure.
by any party, so.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Just have one last question, Amy Berger from 72 Kent Road. Part 2 of this project is moving the house from the other side of Nancy McDonald to this site. So are there conditions, what's the process for that part of it? Is it, when you do the approval for this?
That's a good question.
Is that all rolled into that, or is that a second part?
It's all
How's
part
that
of the
work?
Where's the house coming from that's going there?
43?
The other side of
On the
of
other
our
side
house.
of the
Be
McDonald.
43 Oceanside?
It's
I
on
mean-
Marion,
That's what I'm
Marion
saying,
and-
he's not doing new construction,
He's
he's
picking the
putting
house
in a
up.
new foundation.
Well, it's essentially, they're using that house, but they have to have a foundation and everything for it, so essentially it's new to this site.
And where the other one
But as
is.
far as like moving it down the road and stuff, I mean, if there's excavation or earthwork or anything in moving that other house, I mean, he has no permission to do any
No, that,
site work or anything.
the house he wants to move is on a full foundation,
Yeah,
so what they do is to go in and just lift it up, put it on cribbing and a trailer and move it down the street.
right. And then but there's no condition to do anything on that other site, no removal of the foundation or earthwork or anything. So that other site,
Now, if he wants to do something with that foundation,
yeah.
and put it on.
I
I thought he was
He
building.
could always build another house on top of that same foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And his other option would be to remove that and build something else, but that may.
But
involve
that has to be
other-
conditioned, it's not part of this project.
That's right, but if he were to touch that foundation and move it, you'd definitely have to come back to the commission.
That's right.
And maybe the zoning board as well,
Oh.
depending on what he puts in there.
Okay.
Did this project have to go in front of the zoning board, Paul?
No, but the other project did because of the house that was gonna be built there. The house that was permitted by the zoning board is not the one that was actually constructed.
Oh, hallelujah.
I mean, no,
Yeah.
I mean, the house they built was actually smaller.
Okay. All right.
I make a motion to continue 33 Oceanside Drive to January 28th at 6:20.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Paul.
Be here on the 12th.
15 Bassin Lane, raise and rebuild. On January 7th, 2019, at 6:45 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Henry Askew to construct a new dwelling on property located at 15 Bassin Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Oh, we got new stuff today, not everyone has seen, so this will be interesting.
This is very minor change.
Yeah, a couple minor changes.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that doesn't mean everyone looked at them.
very true.
It's supposed to be 10 days.
Good evening.
So are we not gonna talk about it then?
Yeah,
Well, we can talk
we're opening
about
the
it.
hearing.
Yeah.
You can do that, and then,
Yeah, I'll do the, I'll go over the changes that I made to the plan today. For the record, Jeff Acid with Morse Engineering, and this property is 15 Bassing Lane, and I'm here on behalf of the property owner. We filed a notice of intent to raise and rebuild their home. The property is about 31,000 square feet in size. It's currently developed with a single-family home. That existing home I have outlined in green on that plan. So I'll point that out.
This is the,
They also have an existing swimming pool in the front yard and a basketball court in the rear yard.
existing.
I've highlighted the shared, there's a driveway within a right-of-way that extends from the end of Bassing Lane, servicing this property as well as the property beyond. And the resource areas include a top of coastal bank. It is a oceanfront home, but that is the only resource area that comes into effect. Top of coastal bank is blue, the 50-foot buffer is in red, and the 100-foot buffer is in green. The proposed work will be to demolish that existing home and construct a new single-family home. It's more so in the location of the pool where they're moving it to, and it's of similar size. They started renovating the existing house and found extensive structural damage to the house and to the foundation, and they got to a point where they've moved out. It's wrapped in tarps, and it's making more sense to them to raise and rebuild.
That hurts.
It's falling apart.
Yeah. So the new house is entirely outside of the 50-foot buffer, as well as the deck on the front. There is a small portion of grading within the 50-foot buffer, however, that is in an area on the other side of the coastal bank from the right-of-way. It's
fenced in, and I guess most importantly, it's in the area which is currently the swimming pool. The project has a pervious driveway, it'll be a shell driveway to match the existing, and it ends up being a 54% decrease in impervious. That's because they're removing the pool and the basketball court. Based on the discussion I had with your agent today, I did make a few very minor changes to the plan. I tweaked the limit of work just here and there. We added a stabilized construction entrance. We added a detail for the erosion barrier, and we added roof dry wells.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing.
We added roof dry wells.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen, you jump in on anything?
Unfortunate for them.
I know.
Yeah. But they had a brand new house.
Yeah. No, not right now.
Okay. Richard?
No, that's unfortunate for them, but I think it's pretty good overall. I don't have any obvious things that I can scream at.
Oh.
Doug?
Jeff, there's a proposed 10-foot right-of-way on there. Is that replacing the other 10-foot right-of-way is that like an access for an abutting property? What's that for?
Yeah, so that's physically where the driveway is going to the abutting property, but the actual paper right-of-way runs over here through the existing house and the proposed house. So they're.
Oh, I see. It takes a 90-degree turn right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's not in the right spot, and they're basically correcting that location.
Okay. And the abutters are, I would assume, are on board with that, since the driveway's already there.
Yeah,
They don't want to drive through the house.
I haven't been part of those conversations, but they'll have to be before they can do this project. They'll have to work that out with the attorneys and
Yeah.
the right paperwork.
Yeah. All right.
Penny?
I don't have any major concerns. I think Amy has some comments that I'd like to hear.
Can I,
On the building envelope or something. Well,
was the top of Coastal Bank predetermined? Jeff, how did you guys determine that?
We field located it. It is pretty clear. It's a clear break in the top of the slope, and then it basically goes to lawn.
Okay. Amy?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jeff and I went over some of the details of the project before the hearing, and he did make some plan corrections, tightened in on the limit of work area, an area of disturbance. I did have a question on how much fill was going, where the fill was gonna be stored during the project. I think, were we gonna add a construction entrance? Oh, you did add that, okay, good. Actually, I haven't had time to really look at this plan, because we just received it today, but, maybe a detail for the, dry wells might be nice to see, just for direction for the contractor who's given this plan set. Otherwise, I mean, I believe that the project by and large meets the requirements of the different acts and bylaws.
Is the basketball
That's
court being
gone.
removed too?
yeah. Yeah,
So they are getting a lot less impervious.
54%
Yeah.
reduction.
right.
As far as fill, the property slopes
From left to right when you're looking at the house from the driveway. And they'll bring up the grade about 4 feet, but it's in the area where the swimming pool is, and just to give them a flat, level front yard in front of the deck. There's quite a bit of fill coming in for the driveway in the back, but that's actually outside of the 100-foot buffer. Most of it is.
I mean, I don't see a problem that we couldn't close, and one of the things, we'd just get some detail on the,
It's probably a
Drainage.
precast dry well or something.
Yeah, we're doing the Infiltrator Arc 36 high-capacity chambers. They're very standard, but we do have a typical detail I could give you as an 8.5 by 11 figure.
You okay with that?
Yeah,
Just out of curiosity, how old is the house that's there now?
It was renovated not too long ago. Let's see.
It says 1900.
Yeah, but they did do a pretty substantial renovation.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And I guess from what I've been told, that renovation is the issue. They didn't do it properly.
Okay. Again, I was just curious.
Yeah.
those real estate photos always make it look like $1 million, which,
I understand that.
They lie, the real estate photos.
well, now, easy.
Well, they do.
Just say it may,
They make
embellish
it
it a little
look like
bit.
a yard is
Penny.
You know what you can do with pictures these days.
Well,
there might be a realtor in the room. Let's-
well, I have issues with it, because I look at something and then I go see it and it's like, you gotta be kidding me.
All
I'm told
right,
they took the roof off and put a second floor on it at one point.
okay.
Yeah, you don't do that right, it's gonna cause a problem.
So do I have a
I
motion?
am
Motion to
going
close.
make a motion to close.
Too
I
late.
do want.
Second.
Hush up. Wait a minute. I do have one comment, okay, and it's just minor.
I doubt it's only one.
Oh, listen, I have to make a comment. This is, I just have a smidgy issue that the revisions came in today, that they
Okay.
didn't come in a week ago. And I had a chance to look at them. I don't know if everyone else did. And I just want to put that out there. Please try and do it sooner, because we do, and it does state it on here, on the agenda. And it's hard, because somebody else will come in and say, oh, well, you like him better than me, you
In
know?
my defense, I did get the call on Friday.
Well, no, I've
Sorry.
been dealing with James.
That's true, yeah.
Actually, we'll throw
That's true.
James under the bus on this one.
Okay.
And actually, I think that we can have perhaps some leniency with the new year, the holidays, because we had some
No,
kind of.
I don't have
back-to-back,
any
3-day
problem,
weeks.
because they were minor changes. But it's just, it makes it difficult on us when somebody else comes in and says, oh, well, you let him get away.
If somebody came in with something complicated or need to be reviewed, we wouldn't do it. If
No,
if
we
we're talking about a
definitely
couple of correcting
You're right.
pieces that can be done, and everybody's busy, you have the last few weeks with the holidays where there hasn't been a lot of time on either side to
I know.
look this over.
I know. It's
Point made, motion to close.
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Do you like the process, Mr. Tibbetts? We'll look forward to talking with you. Take care.
Yeah. It's coming back. though. Pretty scary.
3-week recovery, and he still doesn't have.
No wonder I haven't seen him in the morning,
Yeah,
because he, and
You're talking about Greg?
yeah.
Oh, my word. Didn't know
the
that.
dog and I used to see him every morning at Mary Lou's. I take the dog out at 7 for a walk, and he's getting Mary Lou's at 7 every morning. And I was wondering where he's been.
Yeah.
Oh,
Back
wow.
now, I'm doing well.
Give my best.
Yeah,
Yeah, tell him.
thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
What else do we have?
I think we can go.
Minutes, did we get minutes out?
We did,
November ones?
yep.
Wait a minute.
I recall seeing 2 sets.
Yes, I did see them, but they're not
Yes.
on the agenda.
Good job, Jen. It was painful.
I liked them.
Lot of things going on the last couple of weeks.
Well, I'll get to December soon. But I want to post November's on our website.
You okay with them, Penny?
I'm okay, I just don't have the dates on the top of
Oh,
my head.
well, hold on a minute.
Um,
For November?
Yeah, well, oh, I'll go back.
November.
I'd take
All
a
right,
motion
I've
to
got it.
approve the minutes that we have in hand.
I make
Dates
a
or no
motion,
dates.
we approve the minutes of November 7th as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion, we approve the minutes of November 19th as written.
I'll second that, too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yay.
Make a motion to approve all future minutes.
Not until we see 'em. I guess that's it. Is there any violations or anything, Amy?
If we can, go ahead.
What was the one where they brought in new plans to talk about,
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's a good one. Thanks for remembering that. Yeah, let me go,
It's got the rolled thing.
grab
underneath
some
of it.
plans, because there's a big sticky that says I want to talk to you about it. It's an order of conditions, and they're switching the foundation plans. So I want you to take a look at them, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
So are we still on?
Yeah, we still are on, we haven't closed.
No, we're still on.
I don't wanna do it next time.
There you go. Is anybody taking a ride by Toll Brothers?
Yes.
Oh.
Very wet in the road.
When you go on the back side, I almost croaked, because I had only been down half the
How much has
road.
been cut?
Clear cut.
It's all the way
I
over.
thought it was gonna be in phases.
No,
Well, it is. I mean, there's still a whole area that's not cleared.
All right, 56 Oceanside
Oh, my word.
wants to switch to this.
Which way does this go? It does go this
Isn't
way,
that the one
doesn't it?
that was already modified once before?
56 is down a
Oh,
little bit.
Oceanside, not,
Oceanside.
no, I was thinking of Border Street. Sorry.
This was the approved.
You see
Well, we
these
got here,
footings?
now we have 40.
Yeah.
And
So
this
they
is
have
the new.
individual footings
56.
for all of these piers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The foundation that is on that other plan that
Yeah.
we were asking about, they poured these continuous footings. And there's a question, I think, as to whether those are allowed or they have to be individual.
Didn't
I
really
thought they
pick up
weren't
on that,
allowed.
And I think you're right.
And then,
That's a good catch, Frank. by the way.
and then the part
Oh.
about the sawing out the I don't know, I mean, if they
don't
can
know.
use it and it's allowed, I don't have a problem with it.
But
Just taking that whole foundation out, if the engineer can look at it and say that foundation's strong enough, but I just don't, it's less disturbance, they don't have to dig as much, there's a lot of things that make sense to that.
Right, so, but you're looking at what you're looking at right now, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just comparing this to the foundation, the plan that we got from.
Right.
So these guys have individual footings for all their piers.
Correct.
That one
Yeah.
had continuous footings.
Right.
And then, this is a brand-new foundation, so they're pouring,
But
Well,
what is
so
the
they
difference
had
from what we
proposed-
approved to what this is?
I think that's concrete block, if you look at it, and the approved plan had wooden piers.
So why are they wanting to change?
I don't think they can get the wooden piers in, because the site is too tight.
really,
I think so.
is there,
Where was this?
Oceans?
Oh, Oceanside, that's right.
But like, that's,
it should be wooden.
Well, it's concrete piers, it's the shape of the piers, because this has concrete piers here.
is that the existing, the
This is
approved plan?
approved, issue date 8/2, what's that one?
1218.
Yeah, so the.
Can we see that one, Amy?
She actually
Yeah,
had
so
brought
this
it here.
is- This is the approved.
paper cut. She just wants to get home in time for the Bachelor.
Oh, she's watching them. Or does Jen want to get home for the Bachelor?
No. I watch that on TV.
Oh, no.
So they had sonotubes, and now they've gone to square. So it was always concrete.
Yeah.
So that instead of sonotubes, they're using a square.
Why don't we make them
All right, is
more
that a big deal?
islands? Is
It's
it-
a square, and then the deck will be connected to the house anymore.
Yeah, rear deck not connected to the
Oh,
house.
they're just raising this up, right? Okay.
Is it connected?
No, this
That's
is
why
a new
you
house, this
can't
is a new
move it.
house, isn't it?
Well, this is what I'm getting confused. If it's a brand-new house, why aren't we going with wooden piers? If it's brand new.
Because sometimes they're not practical.
I'm just asking you for it, Dee.
Getting sassy in here.
That's okay.
Maybe we need a reorganization.
Yeah. I'll
You should
do over
put
here.
Penny right next to you.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh, I think that would be a great
Yeah, I
idea. I
like
could pinch him the whole night.
Don't feed her anything. Only it works.
Right on the
really
oh,
hurts.
Oh, it does hurt. Hey, you only have to do.
We have
do
not
it
closed this meeting yet, Penny.
once. I know.
This poor girl wants to go home.
I'm ready.
But
to
she's
go.
having a good time, I can tell.
Well, we're also on television.
Yes,
Yeah, no kidding.
12
Come
people
on,
watched the
Frank,
meeting.
make your decision, is it okay?
I think we get the best, some of the best ratings.
I do think
All
so.
right,
Because we're not bored.
all right.
Are you
don't have a
happy
problem
with
with it.
those?
I don't see that it's a problem.
Okay. So,
There must have been a structural reason or something that they,
we don't need to, do we need to vote on those?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the changes made for, what's the address?
58 Oceanside Drive.
58 Oceanside Drive.
Right, so one of the questions was whether you thought that was gonna, that change would need, was significant
To amend the
enough
order?
to make
No.
an amended
No,
order.
I don't think
But
so.
I didn't think so either, but
No,
it was a change, so I thought I'd like you to see it.
okay.
it's gotta be a structural
We're happy.
reason.
Yeah.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
Okay.
I make a
Thanks,
motion
Jen.
to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I hope you